The global energy markets jolted as news broke, not through diplomats, but through urgent maritime alerts. In the Caribbean's pre-dawn darkness, U.S. forces seized a Venezuelan oil tanker, the Libertad, heavy with crude and cloaked in a web of shell companies. This was no routine inspection, it was a bold escalation. The U.S. had moved from sanctions on paper to direct action at sea. For years, financial measures tried to isolate Maduro's government, but oil kept flowing through a shadow fleet. Now, Washington was willing to physically stop that flow. The confrontation had left the realm of paperwork and entered the high-risk world of maritime enforcement. Phones rang in newsrooms and trading floors worldwide. Was this a one-off, or the start of a campaign? The Libertad, flying a Panamanian flag, was intercepted en route to Asia, its cargo now in U.S. hands and its fate to be decided in court. The move sent shockwaves through the global community, challenging norms of maritime commerce and international law. China, a major buyer of sanctioned oil, and others were forced to recalculate their risks. Shipowners, insurers, and port authorities went on high alert. Every Venezuelan tanker was now under scrutiny. The cat-and-mouse game of sanctions evasion had become a direct confrontation. The world watched to see who would blink first. The Caribbean's calm waters had become the front line of a global economic war. The stakes: Venezuela's oil reserves and political future. The message: the era of passive observation was over. The U.S. was willing to enforce its will on the open sea. The Shadow Fleet's days of easy evasion were numbered. The global oil trade had entered a new, unpredictable phase. The operation began before dawn, as the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Steadfast closed in on the Libertad. The tanker had gone dark, its tracking beacon off, but satellites and drones had it in their sights. On the Steadfast's bridge, tension ran high. Interdicting a supertanker is no small feat. Radio calls were ignored. The U.S. commander issued a final warning: slow down and prepare to be boarded. Fast inflatable boats launched, carrying armed teams trained for this exact scenario. Night vision goggles turned the Black Sea into a green-lit battlefield. The boarding team's mission: secure the bridge and engine room, prevent escape or sabotage. The crew, a mix of nationalities, offered no resistance. Caught in a conflict far beyond their control, specialists boarded to inspect documents and sample the crude, confirming its Venezuelan origin. Every detail was documented for the legal case to come. The seizure was a showcase of modern maritime enforcement: intelligence, technology, and tactical precision. The message was clear: the ocean is no longer a safe haven for sanctions evasion. The U.S. had eyes everywhere. The Libertad's journey ended not in an Asian port, but in the hands of American law. The operation was swift, calculated, and left no doubt about U.S. resolve. The Shadow Fleet's tactics had met their match. The risks of running sanctioned oil had just skyrocketed. The world's oceans were now a battleground. The U.S. had set a new precedent for maritime enforcement. The era of impunity was over. The Shadow Fleet sounds like fiction, but it's a real clandestine network of aging tankers. These ships, often past their prime, are used by sanctioned states like Venezuela, Iran, and Russia to move oil outside legal channels. Operators go dark by switching off tracking systems, making detection difficult. Ship-to-ship transfers at sea obscure the oil's origin, laundering it for sale. Ownership is hidden behind layers of shell companies and flags of convenience. If caught, the paper trail leads nowhere, making penalties elusive. Poor maintenance and lack of insurance make these ships environmental hazards. The U.S. argues that targeting them isn't just about sanctions, it's about preventing disaster. The Shadow Fleet is a risk to both global markets and the world's oceans. U.S. sanctions on Venezuela didn't happen overnight. They began with targeted measures against Maduro's inner circle, then expanded to hit the country's oil lifeline, PDVSA. The 2019 recognition of Juan Guaido as interim president marked a turning point. Sweeping sanctions blocked PDVSA from the U.S. financial system and targeted foreign companies aiding Venezuelan oil exports. The goal: cut off Maduro's revenue and force political change. In response, Venezuela got creative, selling oil through intermediaries, using non-dollar currencies, and offering steep discounts. Most crucially, they built the Shadow Fleet to hide oil's origins and destinations. The U.S. played whack-a-mole with new sanctions, but the network adapted. When financial measures failed to stop the flow, the U.S. decided to stop the ships. Seizures are a direct response to Venezuela's resilience and adaptability. The battle moved from banks to the high seas. The US is betting that physical enforcement will succeed where sanctions alone did not. The stakes are nothing less than the future of Venezuela's regime. The Libertad's seizure sent shockwaves through oil markets, prices ticked up, but the real impact was on risk perception. Suddenly, any shipment linked to Venezuela became toxic. Insurance rates for Caribbean voyages soared, reputable shippers steered clear. For traders of sanctioned crude, the calculus changed. Physical seizure was now a real threat. The discount on Venezuelan oil no longer covered the risk of losing ship and cargo. Some buyers fled, others demanded even deeper discounts. The flow of Venezuelan oil was disrupted, supply chains rerouted. Price volatility became the new normal. The US had thrown a wrench into the shadow oil market. The risk premium for doing business in the region skyrocketed. The machinery of illicit oil trade was grinding to a halt. The message: no one is untouchable. Caracas responded with fury, calling the seizure piracy and a violation of international law. The Maduro government framed it as an attack on Venezuela's sovereignty, vowing legal action and protection for future shipments. Russia and China condemned the US move, arguing it undermined maritime law and freedom of navigation. Western legal experts countered, the US acts under statutes targeting sanctions violations and illicit finance. After a seizure, the Department of Justice files a civil forfeiture complaint in US court. Owners can contest, but doing so exposes them to sanctions, so most stay silent. The US often wins by default, sells the oil, and places proceeds in a fund for the Venezuelan people. How that fund is used remains contentious. The legal process is complex, but the US insists it's not arbitrary. The diplomatic fallout is real, straining relations with Venezuela's allies. The world is watching how far the US will go. The precedent set here could echo far beyond the Caribbean. The US campaign against the shadow fleet is a move on the global chessboard, with China as a key target. Chinese refiners have been the main buyers of sanctioned oil, keeping Venezuela and Iran afloat. By seizing tankers, the US challenges China's energy strategy and tests its resolve. The pressure extends to shipping. The US urges flag states to deregister shadow fleet vessels, making them pariahs. Insurers, mostly in London, are under scrutiny to avoid covering illicit trade. Without insurance or a flag, a tanker is stranded. No port will accept it. The US is leveraging its influence over shipping and finance to squeeze the shadow fleet. Russia sees this as a warning for its own shadow fleet, fearing similar tactics. The result, a potential arms race in sanctions evasion and a fragmented global energy market. The US may win battles, but risks accelerating a shift away from its dominance. The world's energy order is in flux, alliances are shifting, and the rules are being rewritten. The consequences will be global. Seizing a supertanker is just the start of a logistical and legal ordeal. The vessel must be sailed to a secure port, no easy task, as few want the political headache. A prize crew takes command, navigating and maintaining the ship and its volatile cargo. Ports may face diplomatic pressure and practical challenges. Deep water, specialized facilities, and legal entanglements. The ship becomes evidence, often tied up for months or years. The oil is offloaded and stored at government expense, awaiting a court order to sell. Proceeds are held in escrow until litigation ends. If the government wins, the tanker, usually old and of little value, is forfeited and scrapped. The process is costly and complex, underscoring the seriousness of this new enforcement strategy. Every seizure is a massive undertaking. The US is committing significant resources to this campaign. The logistical headaches are real, but so is the message. The US is willing to pay the price to enforce its will at sea. The US crackdown on Venezuela's shadow fleet raises tough questions. Supporters say it's the only way to cut off Maduro's oil revenue and prevent environmental disaster. Critics warn it may drive the trade deeper underground and worsen Venezuela's humanitarian crisis. The legality under international law is hotly debated. Some see it as necessary, others as dangerous precedent. If the US can seize ships in international waters, what stops others from doing the same? The risk of escalation or miscalculation is ever present. The world is watching a real-time experiment in maritime power. Will this force change or deepen global divides? One thing is clear: the stakes have never been higher.